So, hey guys, was thinking about talking about something good about the Habs lately. Hey Z, can you spare a minute or two?
30 seconds probably is all you need.
Yeah. Well, guys, welcome to another episode of Shooting the Shit. As always, it's me. It's your host. I'm Landsman. I'm always here, and as always, I have my buddy on the other side. Z, what's going on?
Davey, how do you handle those late games this week?
I could say, luckily, I was at work, so I couldn't watch them. How did you find them?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't make it through the only good one. So perhaps I shouldn't be watching the games because I fell asleep as soon as they dropped the puck against the Canucks. But I did watch the rest of them, which, not so great.
Yeah. You and I, we talked about this. We talked about this last episode last week. And we said, there's 4 games in a week, which is a lot to ask for. There are also 4 road games, 2 against Vancouver, 2 against Calgary. But there are 2 teams that are below us in the standings. And we were going into it with a decent record on the road with only 1 regulation loss through 14 games. And said, we dropped 3 of 4. I don't know what's going on. Chemistry seems to be off. Something in the dressing room, something in the water they're drinking. It's scary because we drink the same water.
Well, I agree. I mean, listen, we like you said, we mentioned it, it's a 6-game road trip, right? We felt out of 12 points they needed to get, more than 6. And I guess you can argue that they're still on track to get more than 6, depending on how they do in this back-to-back with Winnipeg. But I think the disappointing thing for the Habs was how they played against the Flames on the last 2 games, because those are what the focus is on. Obviously with the Canucks, they picked up 3 out of 4. They dominated the Canucks like they've been doing all year. And the first game against the Flames, people were willing to give them a pass because of the back-to-back situation. They had played less than 24 hours before, blah, 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 all this stuff. And call me guilty too, but I thought they were going to come out bats out of hell on Saturday. I guaranteed on Facebook to my family friends, I was like, I guarantee a victory tonight. And sure enough, I looked like a dumbass because they came out. You can argue they came out flatter than they did on Thursday, which to me it's inexcusable. And it's there's a problem there. I don't know what it is. It could just be that Calgary is has the Habs numbers. I mean, they've in 3 out of the 4 games this year, they've dominated them analytically. In terms of expected goals and high danger chances. Ironically, the one game the Habs played better than the Flames, they got shut out 2-0. And then they won 1 game because I think Riddick was in nets and he wasn't very good. And then you saw the last 2 games; they were terrible. The Habs, there's no other way to really describe their play. So, yeah, that kind of really flattened out the road trip, which started out against Vancouver against was 3 out of 4 points. So. I don't know how you think they're going to finish up against the Jets, but they got to do well.
It just seems that it seems to me maybe Jacob Markstrom has the Habs number. I mean, we talked about it, and I was looking up the stats. Career 9 games doesn't seem like a lot, but an even record of 4-4-1 doesn't seem all that great. But then when you look at the numbers specifically, he's got a 929 save percentage to go along with the 224 goals against. This is a guy, Markstrom. Yeah, he was a former first rounder, but he's also was only touted as a number 1 goalie after he left Florida midway through his career and went to Vancouver.
Yeah, and
what's going on with him? Is this his rejuvenation career? And
well, he's a good goalie. I think he was a high prospect, like you mentioned, and then Florida gave him up to get Luongo. They gave up to get an established goalie. So he was a specific piece that the Canucks obviously targeted and had hopes for, and he panned out. I mean, he's a good goalie. Is he a great goalie? I think he's developed into certainly one of the elite. I think he finished 4th in the Vezina last year, and he's not the best goalie in the league. That's still Connor Hellebuck in my eyes. And Vasilevsky's having an incredible year, but I think he's a difference maker, Markstrom, and he can be a difference maker in net. And I think that's why he got the, $6 million a year or whatever, how many years he got. But, I don't think he was the reason the Habs lost. Like he made some good saves, but the Habs didn't generate anything yesterday. They couldn't even get through the neutral zone. I find Calgary plays the same system as Ottawa, who they also struggle against, but is more talented than Ottawa. So it's just it wasn't even that they lost, man, and obviously they got to win. It was just the way they lost. It was so disheartening as a fan because they weren't moving their legs. They weren't. It just looked like the effort wasn't there. And I know it's easy for us to say here while I'm sitting in my basement. And I'm sure it's not like the Habs don't, the players on the Habs don't give a shit, but it's just, I don't know if they're demoralized. Again, I don't know if it's a problem in the room. I don't know if it's just fatigue, playing in a different time zone. I don't know what it is, but it's too many excuses to me is what it is. Put out the effort.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's something that they really need to address. I mean, they needed to make a coaching change, which they did. They got rid of Julien, they got rid of Muller, they brought in Alex Burrows, and they brought in Dominique Duchamp. And then, some things started to work early on. We started saying, the special teams started looking really good, and we started saying, okay, maybe this is a good thing. But then everything else was just not getting much better. Carey Price is still having one of the worst years of his career. By the way, back to Markstrom, I mean, I have to correct myself. He was not a first-round pick. He was a second-round, but the 31st overall. So first pick of the second round. Anyways, but, Carey Price is not playing his Carey Price numbers. He's not putting up flashy games. He's not dazzling the crowds. The wins he pulls out are good. I'm not going to say he plays any great games. And then you got to question the leadership, we went out in the offseason and we brought in so many leaders. We brought in Anderson, we brought in Toffoli, we brought in Corey Perry. These are people that have won cups before, except for Anderson. But I don't know. There seems to be something with this chemistry. They're playing the same teams. They should have their numbers, or at least a better idea how to play against them.
Well, I posed this question on Twitter last night, and today I had a discussion about it with a couple of regular followers. And, I focused on Weber, which, again, I tried to be clear when I was doing it, is I'm not singling him out as a reason for the Habs not performing to whatever expectations they had over the last few years. In fact, I think Weber's played well since he's come over from Nashville when he's been healthy. A lot of people said that he was going to fall off. He hasn't really fallen off. I think this is the first year you're seeing a little bit of a fall off. But, statistically, he's been good for the Habs, and he's been solid. And I don't even want to compare it to Subban or whatever. My point with the trade was he was brought in, and he was touted as a leadership change. He was touted as a thing that was going to stabilize the team and bring in, a kind of a new era of, responsibility to the team. And that, to me, that just doesn't pan out. It's not fair to pin it all on Weber. It's more Bergevin's fault, which is the point I was trying to make, because Bergevin has basically tied his legacy. He literally has said, I want my legacy to be that I brought Weber to the Habs. That's a quote from the Journal de Montréal. And he said, I also want my legacy to bring a cup. But just the mere fact that he's put such a spotlight on the trade, first of all, it's unfair to Weber. But also, what is the leadership on this team? Because over the last 4 years, I can't tell you that the effort level for the Canadiens has been consistent. There's been guys who are consistent. I mean, obviously, Gallagher is always going to work his ass off, right? But there are other guys that don't have consistency. And to be honest with you, just the way they came out on Saturday after Thursday's game, where they had an excuse of, okay, we're retired, we played less. To me, there's an issue there, Maybe it's a coaching issue, but it's also, Gallagher, you just mentioned Perry, Toffoli, guys who have won the cup. Weber, one of the greatest leaders in hockey. Carey Price, right? How could the Habs have come out that flat? It was something. I was genuinely confused during the game last night.
Yeah, it felt like everything was off sync. Everything was one step off, and every time they tried to put up some offense, we called it. You said it, mentioned it when off air. We had said that they couldn't get out of the neutral zone. They couldn't get the passes connecting, and it's not an excuse. There's no, like, I mean, like, yeah, but maybe is it because of their health? Like, what we talked about this last episode. We talked about one thing that has been really stagnant. One thing that has been consistent, which in a good way, is their health. In recent years, we've had, injuries to Weber, who was out long term. We had injuries to Price long term, injuries to Gallagher long term. This year, we have been very fortunate, knock on wood, that is back to wood,
it started,
that they've stayed healthy. Yeah.
Sherrod broke his hand now, right?
Yeah, Sherrod broke his hand.
Anderson missed some time, right?
Anderson missed a couple games with the foot injury that we don't know if it's a slew foot or not. Deneau was listed as a day-to-day, but is probably going to play tomorrow night. Well, Monday night, sorry, excuse me.
Well, certainly you can notice, and listen, I'm not trying to make an excuse here because I think every team in the NHL is going through this right now because of the type of season we're having. We're having a compressed schedule, pandemic, COVID, all this stuff. The guys are playing hurt, okay? People have been talking about Suzuki, right? What's wrong with Suzuki? Is a sophomore slump? Is he playing hurt? Could be both. But he looks like he's hit a wall. Multiple Canadians look like they've hit a wall. And could that just be fatigue, energy levels dipping? The Habs had their bye week already. Their schedule was brutal down the stretch. They have so many back-to-backs and 3 and 4 nights. And your ability to maintain wind throughout the game is going to be impacted. Like, I get that part. But these are also professional athletes who are paid millions of dollars, and the coaches are paid millions of dollars to prepare. It's funny that the Flames fired their coach as well, right?
Yep, Jeff Ford, believed.
They hired Sutter during the bye week, so he had a full week of practice to work with the team, which Ducharme didn't have. But one of the first things he did was he did bag skates with the Flames.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense. Like, at the time I saw it, I was like, oh man, the players must hate this. But you know what? It makes sense because it's going to be the team that can maintain its energy the most down the stretch that's gonna make the playoffs or finish a seeding ahead of someone else or whatnot. And that's just the way this year is going to level off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you touched on the point when Julien was fired, Ducharme stepped in and had less than 24 hours before his first game. He really was thrown into it like that. Not even like a second of, let me adjust. Whereas Sutter also had some time off. He wasn't an assistant coach. He was literally at home, like wherever that may be, just chilling, focusing on the games. And then he was called upon by Trevelyan saying, hey, listen, we want you back. He's a proven winner. I like to bring up proven winners, but he is a proven winner behind the bench. He was with them previously from 2002 to 2006. He took on the reins as head coach, and as soon as he took over the head coaching position, within the first 6 months, he was appointed as GM in his first go-round. That says volumes of your coaching ability and the confidence with the management.
Look, you and we disagree on experience and leadership as a player trait sometimes. I know you value it, and I get it. I'm not someone who doesn't get it. But it's just, I think they're overblown traits.
I think you're wrong. No, just kidding.
That's fine, man. Call the analytical side of me, but I would rather my best player or my supposed best defenseman be, overflowing with skill rather than leadership. I'm just saying what it is, okay? You can get leadership from your fourth line player. You can. You can get leadership from your third line winger. You can get leadership from your sixth defenseman. I want my best players to be overflowing with skill. That's the priority I have. I'm not devaluing experience and leadership. I'm just saying they tend to get overblown. But I will agree with you what you said when it comes to coaching. And I think you saw it in this 2-game series where Sutter is an experienced coach. He has a system. He understands it. And the Flames are a veteran team, and he's the type of coach that can coach a veteran team, right? Their players, their best players are not guys who have only been in the league 1 or 2 years. Their best players are guys who have been in the league. Monahan's been in the league 4 or 5 years. Same thing with Goudreau, right? Lindholm's been around for a long time. Kachuk maybe a few years, but he's Sutter's type of player, man.
Oh, for sure.
Forever, right? So like these are not. There's no Kotkaniemi or Suzuki or Romanoff on the Flames. You know, there's not, and I think that the problem with the Habs is there's this wide kind of paradox in its roster where you have these experienced veteran, potential Hall of Fame all-star type players like Weber and like Price. And then you have these, you know, these experienced veterans like Toffoli and Tatar who have been around over decades and scored a ton of goals in the NHL, and guys like Gallagher. And then you have, you know, guys like Romanoff who's playing a key role, right? You have guys like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi. This is your 1C and 2C. The average age of those three players is 20.
Which is insane when you think about it.
You know, you're asking these guys to play key roles. So the Habs are an interesting lineup, you know, and it's a hard. I think it would be a hard ask of any coach to come in and figure out the Habs.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? I will agree to your fact that you said it doesn't have to be a top player to have the leadership. I think about that when I think about like someone like Paul Byron, for example. You know, he's a guy who is either fourth line or out of the lineup. You know, but he does step up when he called upon. But he's also a leader in the room. He does talk to the team. A guy like Edmondson, who does not put up the gigantic numbers in terms of goals and assists, is currently leading the NHL in plus minus. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're talking about there. I mean, one of the few bright spots that I really that's near and dear to me is the play of Jeff Petrie. That's a feel good. That always makes me cheered because he's a guy who won't stop putting in 110% every night. Despite the games, if they're blown out of the water, he will still step up.
He's been awesome, man. Like, you know, Petrie's he's that type of defenseman, right? He's exciting to watch. He's a great skater. I mean, I know he's older, but like he's the type of guy who's going to be effective. I think I mentioned this in one of our episodes where he reminds me of Markov in a way. Like he's intelligent with the puck, and he's, you know, Markov skating obviously fell off after his numerous injuries, but he made up for it with his hockey IQ, right? Petrie's going to be one of these guys who will have his skating, you know, hopefully he doesn't get injured, but he's also got especially offensively, that first pass and jumping to the plate at the right time. Does he have some defensive gaps? Yeah, I think he's always
human.
But at the same time, you know, he's positives so far outweigh his negatives, and he's been the best player on the Habs. You can argue he's been the best player on the Habs for 2 years now.
Yep,
you know?
I would agree with that 100%. And that's not just because of
great,
like
man.
my personality, but
all these goals this year. You're right, man. I mean, you know, we opened up the show with a joke about positives, but really, Petrie's been a positive since the beginning of the year.
Yes, and he has not stopped. He's not wavered. You know, like right now he's at, I'm going to say 11 goals. You know, which is second only to Toffoli. He is the closest. He's leading the team in points. He's a guy whose career numbers, his top career goals in his career. Now he started back in 2006. And his top numbers in goals per year was 13.
13, yeah. I don't know if he's played since 6, but he obviously has been around since.
Well, here I'm gonna look it up just so we have this you know.
But I will say this, and
2011 he started. 2011 he started.
Okay.
And yeah, his career high was in an 82 game season in 2018-2019 when he had 13.
I will ask you this, okay?
Yeah. What's up?
Sherrod broke his hand, right? He's out potentially 4 to 6 weeks, I think I heard, if he gets surgery. So they've been playing Romanoff with Weber, which is what a lot of people wanted. And it's an interesting pairing. I don't hate it. I probably would have put Mete with Weber just because they've played together in the past. And, you know, say what you will about Mete, they've had success as a pairing in the past. But they put Romanoff there, they put Mete and Kulak together. Mete and Kulak have been an utter disaster. Now, that could just be the Flames' relentless forecheck. Maybe Mete Kulak would look better against a team like the Oilers or the Canucks, right? Which are more finessey. But my point is you don't want to touch the Joel Edmondson Petrie line. That's what a lot of people are telling me about that pairing because they've been good and they have been good. Edmondson's far exceeded my expectations. But for the sake of balance and looking at things that have worked in the past and trying to drive some offense, would you break up that pair? Would you put Petrie back with Kulak where he's had some success? They've been defensive mess a little bit, but offensively they've been a success. Mete and Weber have been a success. Maybe play Edmondson, a veteran, as you mentioned, with experience, with Romanoff on the third pair, just to take Romanoff's minutes a little bit back down, pair him with someone like Edmondson, maybe let Romanoff take over some playoff time. I don't know. I want Romanoff to get minutes too, but ultimately, I don't know what the answer is, so I'm throwing it over to you because you're the smart guy in this pairing.
The smart guy in this pairing?
You're the puck-moving defenseman.
Me?
No. I'm the lumbering Sherratt type cross.
I'm the 7th D who's so fat he comes to training camp overweight and doesn't make weight and still struggles every time. But thanks for the compliment.
We can both be Douglas Murray, all right?
It was his birthday the other day. Stu Cowan tweeted about it.
But
no, honestly, if I were the guy who had to choose the line pairing, you mentioned it before, I would put Mete and Weber back together for a couple of reasons. One, like you said, it did work well together in the past. And two, it would give a lot more confidence for Mete. Mete has been playing not great hockey this year, not great hockey last year, because like right now he was put in a position where he came into the season knowing he was the 7th D. Like he knew he was going to fight for his job, but he knew he was going to lose that to Romanoff. Romanoff was highly touted. He's younger. He's got more finesse, more skill. He hits more. He's got size. Mete's only 5'9". But like, yeah. So like for Mete, he came into this year and like now he's only played 7 games this year. You know, this is a guy who the past few years he's been playing top D pairing minutes, and now it's relegated to watching the game from the press box.
Right.
If I were management, I would personally put him back with Weber to give him that confidence, to see that line click better. Not necessarily split up the Edmondson Petrie tandem right away, because it is working. It's something consistent with the Habs, which is hard to find these days. And then, yeah, although it sucks for Romanoff to be paired on the third defense pairing, but with Kulak, I feel like he'd get that leadership. He'd get that guidance, because they both have the skills to be an offensive defenseman. But they can also be, with Kulak, with Romanoff, they both have the capabilities of being offensive defensemen, but they also know how to come back. But I feel like the other day there was a play, I'm not sure which game, so I'm not going to try and quote it, but where Kulak tried to pinch. And he tried to pinch hard. And then as he was going too far out in the offensive zone, he had to skate all the way back, and he did not catch them. And I don't think the other team got a goal, but I just know that, like, for him, it was harder to do. But if he was paired with someone like Romanoff who has wheels, they can take some gambles. They can take some risks like that.
I mean, look, Mete has wheels too. I don't know about Kulak. Like, I'll play devil's advocate to your point, and I'll say I think Kulak, similar to Mete, needs to play with a veteran, someone like Weber or Petrie, because I think their decision making is questionable. Like you mentioned, the Kulak pinch, right? If he was playing with someone like Weber, first of all, Weber doesn't pinch as much, and Weber doesn't have wheels. He's the opposite of what wheels are. He's got like the Flintstone stone, like the square ones. But Weber also tends to play a conservative style. Petrie's got wheels for days and is also a veteran now, understands positioning better. Again, that's why I feel him and Kulak have success. Here's the thing about the Habs' defensive core is Kulak, Mete, and Romanoff are young players. I know Kulak and Mete have played hundreds of games in the NHL, but they're guys who have always been seen as fringe, like they're in and out of lineups, right? Even Kulak, when he was picked up by the Flames had him on waivers.
Yes.
That's how Habs picked him up, I believe, or they traded something.
They traded, but but the thing is, like, the thing with Kulak though is that, I think it was in that same game where Kulak made that pinch, and then they did the contrast and they showed Petrie skating way back. I mean, I'm a guy who looks at numbers because I'm a number guy, but like you look at the size difference in terms of there's only an inch difference, but there's about 25 pounds difference between the Kulak and Petrie. But the fact that Petrie is the bigger of the two, but can skate all the way back, I don't know. I think it's hard to say which defense should stay because Romanoff was so highly touted. Mete.
Play Romanoff. Let's not dispute that fact. Play Romanoff, right? I just think the Habs need to, again, it's same point we made earlier. Like, you got to shit or get off the pot at some point in terms of, do you play the young guys or not? Like, just, if Mete's not your guy, then move on from him. Like, apparently he made a trade request earlier in the year. Why not trade him? Because you want the depth that Mete brings. Is Mete that good? Yeah, he's a great transition defenseman. He can move the puck out of the zone. He can skate through the neutral zone, but he literally can't do anything else. Okay, like he can't. He gets pushed off the puck in the offensive zone. He's not a threat to score. He's got wheels and he can move the puck up the ice. Fine. Maybe you should put him as a winger. I don't know. But my point is that you're better off than calling up Cale Fleury, and playing Cale Fleury as a seventh defenseman and let him get some minutes. And I think he's a righty, right?
Fleury is a righty, yeah.
Yeah, and they have Edmondson. Romanov can play on the left. Kulak plays on the left. Sherrod plays on the left. Like, you could use another righty in the lineup. So, like, this is my issue with the Habs. And also, like, to your point earlier about, like, playing, changing up some things. Like, one thing about Ducharme that has disappointed me, and it's still super early. I don't know if disappointment's the right word.
Game 10 coming up.
He doesn't seem to make the in-game adjustments. I have the same issue with Julien. And I'm just like, man, break up the pairings. Like, why not try it? Like, yesterday, nothing was working, right? Nothing was working. Switch up the lines. I mean, I know it's a Hail Mary and it's kind of a desperation move, but it was your second game against the Flames where nothing was working. So you had now gone through 4 periods of play, in the first intermission where nothing was working. So at that point, change up the lines. Move Petrie up and play Petrie with fucking Weber. I don't know. Or play Kulak with Petrie for a little bit. Or switch up Mete. Or play Romanoff with Petrie. Like, you were down 3-0. Like, what's the worst going to happen? You're going to lose 5-0 instead? Like, and again, I mentioned this about the Senators too earlier, how Flames and Senators play this trapping style that the Habs seem to struggle with. Where's the adjustments? You're watching tape? So the Senators and Flames play a similar style. They both trap through the neutral zone. The Habs have clearly had issues with both those teams this year, more so than any other team they've played.
Yeah.
You played the Senators 5 times, right? You've played the Flames 4 times. Where are the adjustments?
Well, that's what remember. I remember me specifically saying for the Habs is to not be worried. Don't be afraid. Try it out. There's nothing you can lose. Remember, we had made the big sign, "Don't be afraid," because they shouldn't. Like you said, they should play around with the line, see what works, see what doesn't. The other day I remember they had switched. They put I think it was Henderson to Foley and Kotkaniemi together, and it worked. And it worked for a game. And then they said, okay, well, we'll try it in the next game. But as soon as it didn't work, they didn't say, oh, well, let's play around, I mean, like, I'm not saying that they should go the aggressive route and, like, bench players, but they should play around and say, like, hey, well, like, this guy's performing really well. Let's put him up. Let's put him down. And it's not a question of coaching tactics. It's just about you don't know what's going to happen.
But it is coaching, man. Like, it is coaching. You got to make the in-game. Like, I know Ducharme's young, but to me, these last 2 games were a lesson in a veteran coach schooling a rookie coach. Like, Sutter walked circles around fucking Ducharme.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about leadership and someone who's been virtually non-existent a lot this year has been Phil Deneau. He contributes, but he comes in spurts. He'll be hot for 1 game and then he'll be cold for 4 in a row. He's only got the 1 goal this past, last week.
Oh, man. Deneau, dude, I don't know what the story is. That guy, I don't know if it's a contract issue. I don't know if, I thought Julien broke up him, Tatar, and Gallagher too early during the year. Now I get the mixing and matching, but I thought, analytically their numbers were good. They just weren't scoring at the same pace. And I think maybe he got pissed that happened. Obviously the money thing is a big deal. If it's true that he gave up a $30 million contract, then he's literally, he's crying right now because
he's kicking himself in the ass. He's kicking himself hard in the ass.
So I don't know. And he's playing hurt right now. I thought he played better in recent games. I obviously removed the Calgary games because no one played well, but I don't know what to deal with Deneau. And that was a problem. I think the Habs were counting on Gallagher, Tatar, and Deneau to remain what was essentially the last 2 years one of the best 5-on-5 lines in the whole league. And they were banking on that to continue because they knew that now they added Toffoli and Anderson. and they were expecting Suzuki to take a step, Kotkaniemi to take a step. Armia now, who was a second liner last year, would be a third liner this year. Like I saw what Bergevin was planning, but a lot of things have not gone the Habs' way this year. And it might just be because you're playing the same 6 teams over and over. But this brings me back to Ducharme, man, and this is why I think it's coaching, and Julien before him. You're playing the same teams over and over. Why not modify a game plan to the team that you're playing? Why not?
100%.
Playing
100%.
Ottawa Senators with the same lineup you would play Toronto with. Like, I get consistency. Like, I understand that. I've been watching hockey for a long time. Lines should stay together. Pairings stay together. Blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I've been down on the Sherratt and Weber pairing, right, all year.
Oh, you've been bashing them, the two of them.
I've been bashing them.
Since,
but you know what?
Early in the year.
Against the Senators or against the Flames, who, you know, have a guy like Tkachuk and crash the net, you know, and try to get into the slot, play those two guys. But don't play them against the Maple Leafs, who are going to skate circles around you, or the Oilers. This is my issue, is make some adjustments, you know?
Well, that's it. Exactly like you alluded to. Once you play a team enough times, especially now, you start to know what's working and what's not working, how to play the game, how to watch the tape and say, okay, this is how we should take on the Matthews-Marner line. This is how we should take on Draisaitl and McDavid. It's not going to be the same. Even with those two tandems, they're both high-flying, they're both skilled, they're both people you should watch all the time, but you should play around with your lines. Play around, and don't be afraid.
Let me tell you something. Let me ask you, do the Habs have an Austin Matthews?
Nope.
Do they have
have not for a long time. Pardon?
Do they even have a Mitch Marner?
Nope.
Okay, we know that they don't have a Connor McDavid or a Leon Draisaitl, right?
Nope.
We
have skill. Don't get me wrong. We have skill, but we do not have elite. We do not have elite.
Do they have an Elias Peterson? No.
Nope.
Okay. Do we have a guy on the blue line who can skate like Quinn Hughes or drive offense like Quinn Hughes? No, we don't. Petry's close. I get it, but it's different. Like, I'm not saying Quinn Hughes is better than Petry, because he's not. Because Quinn Hughes is maybe the worst train wreck in the league defensively. But I'm just saying, we don't have these elite offensive guys. We just don't. Do we have skilled players? Yes, man, we do. But we don't have elite guys, which means to me, you have to adapt, and the way you're going to win is by effort and by out strategizing the team. And the Habs have enough depth and good players to move around to try to adjust and beat a team, because they're not going to do it. They can't just throw McDavid and Matthews and those top lines out over and over and over again. Now, maybe they felt like they could with the Danault, Tatar, Gallagher line last year, but it didn't work out this year.
No.
Adapt, you know? Like, I'm not giving Bergevin a free pass, because I have a lot of issues with Bergevin. We can do a whole other episode on Bergevin.
Oh, we can definitely do an episode about him.
You know? But
it can be coming up.
Improved. He did bring in some improved players this year.
Yep. Oh, no. He made some really good moves this summer and throughout to make our team a much better team. The question is that we don't have the ability, like you said. We don't have that for teams like Toronto, who have the Matthews and the Marner and Thornton for leadership and Spezza for leadership. They can afford to have a third and fourth line that are mediocre at best, because they have those two top lines that are just like, I don't want to play against them. But we don't have a line that just says, oh my God, I'm scared about stepping on the ice because I know they're going to skate past me. It's an unfortunate thing. I mean, I'm going to talk with this and we can wrap up with this, but we got 2 games against Winnipeg before we can finally come home. What do you see? They've played a up and down game with Winnipeg this year. You know, the other day they blew them out of the water with a 7-1 victory. Do you see us salvaging any points in the next 2 games?
Well, I know they're playing Winnipeg. I'm just looking up their games after that, because the Winnipeg games are going to be tough.
Yeah, they've always been tough. We got that one break. We got that one break on a couple of Saturdays ago. That was fortune, but aside from that.
Okay, well, okay. So they got the Jets, and they wrap up their 6-game road trip. So I'll address that, because right now they have 3 out of 8 points.
Yep.
Okay. They need to pick up at least 3 out of the next 4. Then they end the road trip at 6 of 12. If you the general rule of thumb is you want to be 500 or better on the road. Okay. So if they end up 6 of 12, I don't think it's a successful road trip because the 2 games against the Flames were really bad. But at least they can, if they picked up 3 out of 4 over the next out of the next 2 games, it probably means they played better. They're feeling better about themselves, and they're heading home, right? So I think they need to get 3 out of 4. They gotta pick up at least a win and an overtime loss, which they're very good at overtime losses. So that's good news.
It's good, but not like
No,
the first game against Winnipeg, you go like I watched that game. I will give you that. I watched the end of that game, and I was all excited. I carried presence my fantasy, and it's 1-0. Not a good lead to have late in the game, but still was all happy. And then we also
look, man, because once they come back from that trip, they play the Canucks twice at home. Okay, those are 4 points they need to pick up minimum 3 out of 4. Then they play the Oilers for 3 games. Now these are key. These are all 4-point games because the Oilers are ahead of them in the standings, right?
Yep.
They need, again, that's 6 points. They need to pick up 4 or more. Like these are things they have to do to solidify their playoff position. Because the Flames are right up their ass now.
Oh, yeah. The Flames are 3 points back, 2 points back. I'll check.
And then they got the Senators in a 4-game series. Now, this, to me, will be their season.
Okay.
That 4-game series will be their season. Because after that, they play the Oilers again, then they play the Leafs, then they play the Jets, then they play the Leafs, then they play the Flames again, then they play the Oilers. Basically, they're not playing the Canucks, the Canucks who are the team they've dominated, or the Senators, who seemingly they've played bad against, but they have actually picked up 6 out of 10 points against them. So that's 8 points. They got to get 8, dude. They got to get depending on how they do against the Oilers and the Canucks before, they got to get 7, 8 points. They have to. Otherwise, man, as far as I'm concerned, you kiss the season goodbye. And if they don't make the playoffs, dude, Bergevin, pack your bags, buddy.
Yeah, well, here, you know what? I literally just looked it up. So, going into the week, this past week, we were, I think we had a good cushion of 6 points on Vancouver and Calgary. Right now, we are 2 points up on Calgary and 3 points up on Vancouver. That's how bad it's gotten. Vancouver had a big last night, but it just says, this is desperation hockey now.
I saw a tweet that said, had we beat the Flames both games, we would be up 10 points on them. Instead, now we're only up 2 because we lost both. That's how big every game in this. You're only playing interdivision games. Every game is a 4-pointer. Every game. But you got to take advantage of the teams that you can beat. And they know at this point they can beat the Canucks. So they got and they know they know that they could beat the Senators. And I swear to you, man, if they don't play well against the Senators, if they haven't made adjustments against the Senators, that's it for me. I'm done. Even last night, I had enough of watching the Habs effort level. But those 6 games, okay, 2 against the Canucks, then they got the 3 against the Oilers in the middle, and they got 4 against the Senators. Those 6 games, the Canucks and the Senators, those 6 games, they got to pick out 10 out of 12 points.
Yep. Well,
they need to fight Oilers to a standstill.
Well, I always allude to whenever we play Vancouver, all we have to hope for is Holtby and Nets and Toffoli on for 60 minutes. But anyways, I don't think we can always get what we want. We got Demko last 2 games, and fuck, he really screwed us good. Anyways, on that note, thank you guys. We really do appreciate you guys tuning in to our show. We love to have you guys listen to us and make us part of your day. I don't know, it's kind of fun. We're just doing this for fun, so really the support is great. So thank you for liking, for commenting, for subscribing. You guys are awesome. So as we part for another couple days, I'm Landsman. Easy. You guys.
Well, just quickly echo what Davey said. It's much appreciated, much love. And listen, you guys can start commenting on our videos and on our Facebook group. We're on Twitter as well.
Shooting the Ship 1. SHG.
If there's things you want us to talk about, or there's things that you just heard us say and you're like, God, these 2 guys are fucking idiots. That's cool too, man. Just let us know. Hit us up with it. We'd love to interact with you.
We're open people. Listen, if you don't like what we're saying, if you think we're too long, we know we're working on it, but we know we have a lot to say. So
I'll take the blame. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. guys, Z is a ranter. I'm a numbers guy. Together we make up the two that do shooting this shit, and we really, come at us. We tell us your thoughts. Really, anything is welcome. So, all right, guys. Well, we're gonna say good night for now, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. Once again, cheers, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay awesome, guys. Cheers.